What's up guys, Lon here from Android Authority, and a question that a lot of people always ask is what is the best Android smartphone to buy? So welcome to Best of Android 2015, where we dive deep and get extremely technical, and in this particular video we're going to be focusing on a main component of a smartphone that makes a smartphone great, and that is the display. So which smartphone out there has the best display? Well, that's what we're about to find out. So just as a quick disclaimer before we get started, the devices that we used to test this were the BlackBerry Priv, the Samsung Galaxy Note 5, the Motorola Droid Turbo 2, the Nexus 6P, the LG V10, and the Sony Xperia Z5 Premium. So you have a combination of AMOLED panels and LCD panels in this particular test. The equipment that we used to quantify our data and measure the screen's overall brightness and color accuracy were the X-Rite Display Pro Spectrophotometer, the SpectraCal Color Checker, and the Mobile Forge mobile app. If you want to know more about the equipment and software used to measure these displays, make sure to check out the link down below to the written companion piece or the card up here where we can get a lot more in depth than we can in this particular video. So the testing for this was divided into 3 parts. Each smartphone was configured to the same settings to standardize testing, so brightness was set to 10%, 50%, and then 100% of the full color gamut to measure the average display error. So basically the way that it works is the Mobile Forge application would output colors on the smartphone display, and the i1 Display Pro Spectrophotometer would read those colors outputted by the smartphone screen. Color Checker then uses that data captured by the i1 Display Pro and compares it to the color output from the software to measure the average display error. The lower the display error, the more accurate the colors outputted by the smartphone are. So what we found in part 1 of this test is that 100% brightness, the Xperia Z5 Premium is the brightest display of all at 620 nits, with the BlackBerry Priv in second and the Note 5 in third. The Moto X Force is the most accurate with the least max delta error and least average delta error, and the Xperia Z5 Premium is the worst at this test at full brightness. At 50% brightness, the Z5 Premium is significantly darker at 109 nits versus 620 nits at full brightness, which is a very drastic drop, while the Moto X Force is again the most color accurate. The LCD devices are considerably darker at 10% than the AMOLED-based devices, and at 10% brightness, the BlackBerry Priv is also the most accurate overall with the lowest average delta error. In the second part of this test, we ran a calibrated test, so we calibrated each display to 250 nits, and we then ran another test with the same exact setup as before, with the only exception that the colors were white, and the main 6 sRGB colors like red, blue, green, yellow, etc. And in the case of LCD devices, black was also thrown into the mix. Calibrating the display provided for some very interesting results, as the difference in brightness at various levels is basically nullified by calibrating a brightness level across every individual smartphone. The Moto X Force has the lowest average and max delta errors for 100% of the colors, including white. The LG V10 is the most accurate for calibrated colors, but is let down by the white performance, which is indicative of LCD technology itself and not necessarily the phone. And despite being perceived as a disadvantage thanks to its LCD display, the LG V10 has the second lowest average delta error, and the other LCD device, the Xperia Z5 Premium, has a much higher average delta error. The Note 5 oversaturates on the greens and blues, which sort of makes sense because TouchWiz is predominantly based on greens and blues. The Note 5's display also looks the most pleasing to the eye, as most Samsung devices do, but has the highest average display color error. And finally, in our last test, we wanted to see how bright each smartphone gets at different brightness levels. To test this, we ran a white-only test, again using the same exact setup as before, with auto brightness disabled. The Xperia Z5 Premium definitely has the brightest display, which you can see from this graph, but it also has the sharpest jump in brightness from 75% at 296 nits to 100% at 629 nits. It's also the darkest at 0%, and the Z5 Premium handles brightness in a very strange way, where you need to set the display brightness between 75% and 100% to get a usable brightness. Other devices like the BlackBerry Priv, the Nexus 6P, and the Droid Turbo 2 all have a very uniform increase in brightness, whereas LCD devices like the V10 have a very non-uniform increase in brightness, which you can see from the curve in their graphs, whereas the AMOLED displays have a much more linear and direct increase in brightness. So the overall analysis is that LCD-based devices are consistently accurate with 100% colors, but are let down by the white error, which is more indicative of the LCD display itself and not so much the smartphones that are utilizing them. The Samsung Galaxy Note 5 is not technically the most accurate display, but appears to be the most pleasing to the eye, and the BlackBerry Priv outperforms the Galaxy Note 5 across all of these tests, despite using a Samsung AMOLED panel. The Motorola Droid Turbo 2 is the most color accurate display, but it's not very bright, which doesn't show off the true color potential of the display. Devices such as the LG V10 and Xperia Z5 Premium would be exceptional with an AMOLED panel, especially if these OEMs can buck the AMOLED trend of oversaturating on 100% colors. But that's pretty much going to do it for this video, guys, so hopefully you enjoyed it and found it helpful. And if you want to find out more about this particular display test, make sure to check out the written component, which will be linked either down below or up here in a card, where we can cover a whole lot more than we can in this video. But if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel, which is down below or up here if you haven't already. And also check out the website as well for more in-depth coverage, androidauthority.com, because we are your source for all things Android.